everybody, Sarah here at the Big Blue House Homestead, and I have been busy. I am trying to get things organized. Finally caught up with everything in my garden. I've canned everything that I possibly can out there and frozen everything. And so now it's just, instead of the random throwing on the shelves and throwing in the freezer, it's time to organize. And I want to do all this prep before the holidays come up so that I know what I have and I can do a full inventory. Now, everything that I grew this year is not here because we ate fresh. I've pulled things out the freezer and eaten those and done all that. But I want to show you what I have in my freezer from my garden. This is not from other places. This is all from my garden, as well as the things that I put onto my canning shelf. I grew a lot of food this year, and I'm very proud of myself for doing that. And I just want to show you what you can do, because this is all homegrown produce. So we'll walk around and I'll show you everything that I have going on, and we'll just kind of talk about it for a minute. All right, just a quick look through the kitchen. This is all the stuff out of the freezers. Oh look, and there's my tripod. But you can see that's a lot of food. All right, I'll start with the sink full of tomatoes. I'm letting them defrost because I'm finally able to can them. I was a little behind because of being sick, and so majority of the last of the tomatoes just were thrown in the freezer and frozen. So you can see lots of rainbows of color here. All sorts of beautiful tomatoes, every color you could imagine. So I'm going to be canning up a bunch of sauce here soon, and I'll share that video. Other than that, I'll move down this way and we'll go to the random stuff later. I've got hot peppers, lots of jars. I just threw them in and froze them whole, as well as a huge bag full. And that just made it easier on me. I don't really eat them, and so if I'm going to use them up, I have a way to do that. The seeds inside are still viable because it's fine that they're frozen. And all I have to do is pull out what I need. Over here is just peppers. Lots of peppers. I do have some roasted poblanos. I grew just a couple plants, but they didn't do well, so I have just a small amount of those. I mean, it's really just a small amount. So that's being savored for a good dish. I've got 2 bags of jalapenos and notapenos to make poppers with. That's more than enough for us. We don't eat that many. I mean, I have kids, so we don't eat a lot of spicy stuff. This is a bag of roasted red peppers. I froze them instead of canning them. I've got some diced pimentos, some diced peppers. Most of them I just did greens and reds together. So here you can see I have 3 bags of just green mainly. That's another bag of pimentos. That's a big bag of just cubed instead of strips. I've got some more roasted red peppers, some more roasted pimentos, and a bunch of Jimmy Nardellos, which we eat those all the time, so that's why that bag's almost empty. Coming over this way, I've got 3 bags of noodle beans left. We've eaten a lot of those. And then I have my varieties of green beans. I just freeze them that way. I can a lot up, and I canned some this year. I don't care for canned green beans. I like them frozen. But that's okay. I still have both. That's a whole lot of okra. Like a ginormous amount of okra. But we eat a lot of okra, and when you freeze them whole like this, in the big chunks, you can pull them out and still bread and fry them. But the best way to do it is to just throw them in soups. And that's what we do. Eat a lot of gumbos, a lot of soups, a lot of hearty okra-based vegetables. I love stewed tomatoes with okras in it, so yeah, we eat a lot of that during the winter. I've got greens left still. I had a whole bunch that I harvested early in the spring, and I just mix them, all my kales and collards and things like that together, and those can be thrown into soups or stewed down and cooked like you would just a normal green. Got a lot of yellow squash. I absolutely love squash soup. You can freeze them this way and take them out and bread them still, but we don't eat a whole lot of fried squash. I like squash soup. Don't have a whole lot of zucchini left because we ate like 90% of what I saved. I probably had that much in zucchini, if not more, and I've already eaten a few bags of this. So I probably had a lot more, but we're just down to the finals. So I've got some that are sliced, it's got some that are cubed, and some that are shredded. And then I also have some bags of shredded squash over here to use for whatever I want. All right, this counter is just a random mess of things. There's just a variety of stuff here. This is actually shredded cucumber. I will pull one of these discs out and defrost it, and then I'll turn it into a Z sauce, which is a tzatziki sauce, yogurt based with lots of garlic and dill. So that's really good. So I save a lot of my cucumbers for that. That's the last bag of blackberries. We made some jams, and we also ate fresh and smoothies and things like that. But that's the last bag I have. I had a ton. That's a bag of roasted beets. I didn't get a whole lot of beets this year, but I went ahead and roasted them and froze them. I do have some canned, but I like them like that. Leeks. That's the last of what I have, and I am saving that for a rainy day. I want to enjoy that in a nice soup. I've got a lot of herbs here as well. That's for stocks. I usually just save those to put into stocks and stuff. So I've got the green onions here to put in stocks. I've got garlic scapes. I've got some fresh frozen herbs just in case, you know, I didn't know if I'd run out or not. I don't have a whole lot when it came to eggplant this year, so I just froze them in small sections, small portions. I'm the one who eats most of the eggplant. But I've got some diced tomatoes that I froze. I've got some cushaw squash. This is a caponata, which is an eggplant and tomato mixture. It's beautiful stuff. I love it. That's chives. I usually freeze a lot of my chives as well as dehydrate them, because then I can have chives when I don't have any. These are all the wonder berries that I grew. I did end up with a large bag. It's a lot of work to get berries, but I absolutely love these, and I'll probably grow them again next year. Yes, I have a bag of dandelions. I'll share a recipe with that soon, just to show you guys what you can do with dandelions, because they are edible, and they have like a mushroomy type flavor. That's the frozen bag of green onions, and then I have some frozen squashes and a squash puree that I made just to have on hand for whenever. But that's basically it when it came to what I stored in my freezers for the year. Lots and lots of bags of food. And lots of processing to do still. Lots of tomatoes. Tons of tomatoes. But I have enough peppers to last me almost until next year. I mean, if you think about it, how many peppers do you use in a day? This bag is full. I'm trying to wipe the frost off. But that bag is packed full, and if I'm only using like a cup at a time for stuff, you know, for saute vegetables, stir fries, you know, throwing into chili, things like that, there's probably a good 5 cups in each one of these bags. So I still have quite a bit of peppers. But that was a lot of peppers grown. And then again, I have different stuff just to mess with. And the poppers. And then beans for days. Okra for years. Healthy fresh greens. Mine are now starting to grow. But in the meantime, I have these to use until those are ready to harvest. Which is good. And then again, squashes. Zucchinis. And more squashes. So that was all the freezer stuff. I'll show you the pantry next. I do want to share the dehydrator shelf so that you can see everything that I've put away for now. That's all the roselle that I've done. Most of this is just herbs on this shelf. And then down here, I've got a lot of dehydrated peppers. Use those for a lot of things. But there's lots of herbs and stuff in there as well. And I do have a couple rows over here that are just bulk dry goods that I buy. But yeah, that's a lot of dehydrated stuff. So this is my canning shelf. It's not the pantry, it's just the extra canning shelf. I had to put this in this year because I knew I was going to run out of room. Everything from that box over is just canning supplies. Eventually that will go somewhere else because I'll need it to. Just like that pressure canner back there and my sprouter. I'll eventually just move all that. But it's a lot of food in here, and I canned a ton of jars. So before you judge me, you can see these beets. These are actually from last year in the fall. I already have the bands off of those, but all of my other jars, I still have the bands on, and that's because I saved the bands to count. Every time I open a jar up that I've used since I started canning this garden season, I'll throw the bands into a bin or a bag, and that way I have a count at the end to tell me how many jars I actually went through. And since I finally got this all organized and it wasn't just a bunch of stuff thrown on a shelf, I have to go through now and remove all the bands. But I come through on a daily basis whenever I grab something, and I just check everything that's around it by just pressing the lids down. If there's any type of seal mishap, I'll find it immediately. But you're not supposed to keep the bands on, because if there is a seal issue, the band will tighten it down, and then you can end up with like some really bad stuff growing in here. But like I said, I'm getting ready to take all these bands off. When I counted last, just the jars and stuff that I've done, I was 617 jars of food this year. So I did pretty good. And that was just from the garden. That wasn't counting any of the store-bought stuff. But I just want to kind of take you through and show you. This is just some broth. Whenever I do like a big roast or something, I'll just use the pan juice and throw it into a jar. And then I can use that to flavor something else later. It's not something everybody does, but I do it. I don't want to waste it. These are just whole tomatoes. And you can see the row goes pretty far back. But that's just whole tomatoes. And then I've got tomato sauce. I've got winter squash. We ate a lot of the green beans already, so I'm down to just a few quarts, and then the rest are pints. And they actually go back behind this as well. I just have a few jars of my mixed greens. Don't have enough coming in. And this is tomato juice, and you can see it's separated, and that's perfectly fine. When I shake it up, it looks normal. So it's perfectly fine. I can still use it for whatever. A lot of people get scared of that. It's not a big deal. These were just frozen tomatoes, so they separated. This is actually a hot sauce I made. It's actually really, really good. I just put more peppers into it to make it a little spicier. And these are all collards from the garden, and corned beef, which I don't know if I'll do again. It's good, but I don't know. I'm not a big canned meat person. These are all small batch broths that I make. I don't want to waste carcasses and stuff, so I just do what I can. And this is all big jars of pickles. When we come over here, I have 1 jar of green tomato pickles. I made a small batch and I didn't really like them, so I probably won't do them again. But behind it is all the cucamelons that I did. And this is green tomatoes, pickled green tomatoes. And behind that is a bunch of just pickles. And then I have green tomatoes and hot peppers so that they would get a little spicier. And they're all pickled. And then I have all my jalapenos and mixed peppers. Most of them, as you can see, these are mixed. But most of them are just plain jalapenos. So I've got all that. I've got another jar of just yellow bell pepper or yellow banana pepper type peppers. And one there as well. They're pretty good. I didn't do a lot this year because we don't eat a lot. Okra, my goodness, this whole row is okra, and I have 1 big jar left where I had 2 rows of the large jars, the quarts, and I had about 3 rows of this size, wide mouth, pint size pickled okras. I have 1 spicy left, and what's in this row? Because my son ate every bit of it. He loves it. This row is more mixed pickles, so I've got these are dilly beans, they're wax beans, and then some more dilly beans. And I've got these really cool pickled radishes I did. These are dragon tongue radishes. So that's just kind of a mix in there. It's just where I did small batch canning. I had a ton of these, but we've eaten a lot, and that's my little currant tomatoes. I just canned them up with some basil, and we can throw them into soups or pastas, or I like them in chili. Just little tiny baby tomatoes. Zucchini relish, that stuff is so good. I have a video on that, so if you want to make that next year, please try. It is so worth it. And this box up here is all of my clear hot sauce. I kind of kept that separated from the rest so that I could move it easier, and I really need to find a more permanent home for it. This is all squash relish, and I think it actually goes, yeah, it goes back a few more jars. And then this is a green tomato relish that I made that's actually really, really good. That was the last of the pot, so you can see that jar's a little more full than that one. But I don't care. I'm going to can it up because I'm not going to waste it. And I'm not going to eat that much all in a day. And all of these are green tomato relishes. And I've got the last of my beets from last year. And then this starts salsa, which goes all the way back to here. So I've got a full row and then 2 half rows. And then this is salsa verde. I've got a bunch of it. And then these are diced tomatoes. And then I have tomato jam. And then all of these are just whole canned cherry tomatoes. I canned a lot of those. They're so good. I had a great year in cherry tomatoes, and these are just so good to throw into whatever you're going to make. Some people think that they're too mushy, but it's a cooked tomato. You can't expect it to be firm, but they taste absolutely wonderful. And this is like a bread and butter green tomato relish. It was pretty good. I actually enjoyed that one very much. So when we come down here, this is more like store-bought stuff. I've got beans. I've got cranberry sauce that I just did. But behind it is all of the ground cherries that I grew and pickled. Then I've got grape jam, or grape jelly, strawberry jam, cream and mushroom soup. Then these honey mandarin oranges that I did, those are really good. And I have some more jalapenos, as well as some more of that green tomato bread and butter relish that I made. And then I have 2 jars left of my zucchini chips. And that is muscadine jam from Frogfoot Holler. I need to eat that. I have not done that yet. And that's my pepper jelly. Then I've got a couple jars of just whole tomatoes. And then all of my winter squashes. All right, and then if we come down here, I've got all this is canned chicken. I got some chicken breast on sale, so I went ahead and canned that up. And then I've got grape juices. That's yellow mustard barbecue sauce. That's hot dog chili and a random can of beans. And in my dining room, I have a bunch of turkey soup I need to find a spot for. And I just finished canning yesterday a bunch of broth, so I've got to find spaces for it too. But that's the reason why I said I don't take these off, the bands. I want to wait. These are all the bands that I reuse, but I want to wait and make sure I know how many jars I need, just in case I need to buy more jars for next year. So yeah, I want to make sure I have enough jars because as you can see, there's a lot of food that's already here. But reality is, my garden did not do nearly what I expected, and I will probably end up with even more. We're actually talking about converting this whole room almost into a pantry so that I can store up all this stuff. And I'm not going to show you the other pantries. That's my private business. Just because I have prepper items and things in there I don't need to show. So it's nothing against anybody, but yeah, I have a lot of jars of food. And some people say that this is not enough to feed a family or get by for a year. My goal's never a year. It's to preserve what I have grown now. And the reason for that is because if I eat all of these tomato products by the time I get tomatoes next year, then I'm good to go. Then that means I have had enough from winter to summer to sustain my family. And that's what matters to me. Yes, I have goals to have years and years worth of food on the shelves, but I'm not in any rush. And I think you should be proud of yourselves if you're the same way, where you have done just what you can, because I'm proud of myself for getting all of this put on the shelves. That's a lot of food. Lots and lots of food. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming along and seeing what it is that I put away for the year. And I do have sustainability on some stuff and some stuff I don't. But I'll work harder and yeah, I'll bring you along with that journey. Thank you guys, and I hope I see you in the next video. Bye.